It's not easy to stand up here and tell 450 strangers stories about a hard past. And I just want to emphasize, you heard it directly from the folks who were winning these awards today, but our Savers have done really incredible things. They've overcome unbelievable challenges. And while we honored Utuma and Jamie Faith and Adrian, there are actually dozens of other earned Savers here today, and I'd like to ask all of them to please stand up for a moment. Would you? Thank you. You know, EARN has served over 2,000 local families, but we actually have a greater vision. Our vision is that millions of people in California and around the nation will have access to the tools they need to build prosperity and get ahead across generations. This vision actually has led us to have a real core value of scale. We started a policy program because policy is the way you get to scale when it comes to asset building. We're actually hosting a meeting in Los Angeles next week with the Federal Reserve Bank, with leaders from around California to explore policies to help create opportunities so that we can have more Adrians in the world, more Dwaynes in the world, so that low and moderate income people around the state can buy and keep homes because we know what a powerful impact it has across time for our future. But whether we think about this issue locally or at a state level, I feel like we too often still dismiss the possibility of success for low-wage workers. You know, too often we know about these odds. You may not know the numbers, but we know that if you're a low-wage worker in this society, you face pretty tough odds. Even meeting our award winners at the very beginning of their journey, we may not even expect these incredible people who stand before us today totally belying expectations. As a small businesswoman, a new Bay Area homeowner, an attorney, we might not have expected them to succeed because of the way we just sort of accept that, you know, opportunity is limited or it's not available to certain people. And on the other side of the same coin, most of you here would not expect me, a white guy in a suit with a tie, speaking to you, you know, from a podium that says Four Seasons on it, to tell you that, you know, I grew up in public housing. I grew up on welfare, on food stamps. That's the truth. This theme of the odds in life, this is very personal for me. I think about it every single day. And actually, I came across some research that suggests that I shouldn't even be standing here talking to you today. I know this because I had a very poignant moment years ago where I literally got to see what my chances at success really were. I was in graduate school, and I was studying the links between income and education. And according to this research, there was a 95% chance that I would never get to college. There was a 99.5% chance, ironically, that I would never get to graduate school. Now, if you've come to this event before, you've heard me share my own struggles and the stories about this. I was fortunate because I had a mother who has the kind of vision that earned savers have. She wrote the beginning of a very different story for me because she emphasized how important college education is. And she wouldn't have called it an asset, but she knew that it was. And I can look at people in my own family to understand where I might have traveled if not for this different beginning. Mired in poverty, incarcerated, or worse. And you know, I never would have described it this way at the time. But as a kid living in poverty, I was very acutely aware of this issue of odds. They added up in ways that were terrifying. You know, I would lay in bed at night, unable to sleep, because I knew the finances of our household. I knew what my mother made, very meager income. I knew roughly what our expenses were, and I couldn't get those ends to meet in my head. I couldn't see how we were going to pay for everything. I was afraid we'd be evicted. I was afraid we'd run out of food. And I know that anybody here who's walked in those shoes knows that fear, that panic, whether you were a kid or whether you were a parent. And this starts to add up in a different way. You know, this starts to add up to that 95% chance that you'll never get to college, to that 99% chance you'll never get beyond that. That's part of what makes upward mobility really hard, and it can be hard to understand if you haven't walked in those shoes. But if you stop to ponder this business about odds for a moment, it starts to feel absurd when you consider it in the context of the Bay Area. I mean, put aside ideology, put aside political judgments. It is simply unnecessary that in a community that is so filled with opportunity, we leave our future to such slim odds for so many people. It is unnecessary that my life's opportunities were left to the chance of who my mother was. It's unnecessary that hundreds of thousands of Bay Area workers like Utuma and Jamie Faith and Adrian have their futures determined by such terrible odds. It's unnecessary because EARN can turn these odds right side up. EARN works because we replace chance with opportunity. EARN works because the achievements of Jamie Faith and Utuma and Adrian are just the beginning of the success stories they're writing for themselves and for their families. And this is why we celebrate today. We have an opportunity to change the face of the Bay Area because we know that EARN can turn these odds right side up. We've served 2,000 families so far, but we actually have a waiting list of people like the folks you heard from today. They're ready to save and start their own journey. And the only thing holding us back is the match money we need to match their savings every month. And this is where you have an opportunity to help a family write a different story for themselves.